Afternoon and welcome to another edition of Wash Hour. Now, the Finance Minister recently presented the 2022 budget statement to Parliament. And since then, there's been quite a lot of back and forth on the floor to okay the spending plan of some 137.5 billion cedis in 2022. Now, in the abridged version, government's thematic areas outlined for spending are security, digitization, entrepreneurial development, trade and industry, among others, as well as the much talked about tax, that's the e-levy. Now, sanitation is not plainly stated in the abridged version except for the mention of the climate action and sustainable transition to low carbon economy, which is most likely the outcome of COP26. For those of us in the wash sector, our interest is on how much government has allocated to wash. This is especially so since COVID-19 remains a red flag. Now, there are a number of questions to be answered, such as what becomes of the sanitation agenda by government, and also sanitation programs rolled out in 2017. And also, what about making Accra the cleanest city and the operations of the Operation Clean Your Frontage campaign? Now, these issues are what my panelists and I on today's edition of Wash Hour will seek answers to. I am Doreen Ampofo. Now, you can join the conversation on our social media platforms on Facebook at GBC Ghana, on YouTube at the GBC Ghana, and Twitter at the GBC Ghana. And also on WhatsApp as well on 055 744 6429, 055 744 6429. My guest in the studio currently is the chairman of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, CONUWAS. That's Mr. Atta Ahin. Good afternoon, Mr. Atta Ahin.
Good afternoon.
Now, we'll be having the acting country director of Water Aid Ghana, Dr. Jesse Kofi Danko, joining us via Zoom. So as and when he gets through to us, we'll be talking to him about what we should be expecting in the budget when it comes to sanitation in 2022. Now, Mr. Atta Ahin, I'll start with you first. Now, we had a conversation and we're all surprised about not having sanitation as one of those mentioned in the presentation of the finance minister when he was in Parliament. Do you think that the fact that he didn't mention gives us a hint of government's commitment to the wash sector in 2022?
Thank you very much. And good evening to our viewers. I think that over the years, we in the sector have always complained that sanitation has not been adequately catered for. In fact, not only sanitation, but water, sanitation, and hygiene. These are very critical and crucial for sustainable development. In fact, we say they are a catalyst for growth and poverty reduction and socio-economic development. But unfortunately, it doesn't appear as though we have prioritized this sector enough. So some of us were not too surprised that it wasn't mentioned, even though we were very expectant. I mean, we know the finance minister is a friend of WASH. He is somebody who ordinarily, make provisions for sustainable WASH services delivery, because he knows that with WASH services delivery, you are addressing many other sectors of the economy, including health. Because without, safe water and improved sanitation, health cannot be sustained. He knows that WASH improves education. There cannot be a school where children don't have water and toilet facilities, don't wash their hands. And they all come to complement what we call a conducive school environment. So it was quite surprising, but we thought that is a usual thing that often happens. But we believe that it was a mistake on the part of the finance ministry, not even the finance minister, because we believe in him and know that given the chance, he will make something happen for the wash sector. Of course, we'll be engaging him. From here, we'll be engaging him later, and then we'll see how we can demonstrate to him how improving access to sustainable wash services delivery can spur up growth in an economy. In fact, there's a quotation I recently saw from somebody who works with global communities. In his presentation, he said, the more you make provision for wash services delivery, the more your economy grows. and that is a fact. There's nothing you can do, without access to wash services. At the European Union, there's a quotation that says, no strategy for poverty reduction can ignore people's vital requirements for safe water, and I'm adding an improved sanitation. And so we think that government is aware of the importance of this sector and will do something to improve the lot of the sector.
Now, indeed, if you go to the full document of the budget, that's page 160.
Yes.
I think from page 160 to 163, it gives some details about what government intends to do for the wash sector. So we'll take paragraph by paragraph and then discuss what we should be expecting in the sector until Mr. Danku joins us via Zoom in person. So if you look at point 838, it talks about water resource management programs. That's the first line when you come to Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. And then it says that following interventions by government through the program, that's Galam Stop, the turbidity values to most of the major river bodies in the country have improved. Basically, it's talking about the Galamsey menace and the actions taken by government to improve the water turbidity. Now, it gives some values and says for Praso, it had a turbidity value of 1,157 as at February 2021. It says it improved to 990 at the end of September 2021. We'll be having this conversation about the Galamsey fight and how it's been effective in reducing the turbidity in the water level. Now, how you are in the field, is this exactly what you are seeing on the field? Has it reduced the turbidity level? Has it reduced?
Well, it will be difficult for me to confirm or deny because I have not been to the field in recent times, especially to test. Because sometimes you can see, but that may not be the results you will be getting. So I know that government has taken some very bold steps towards this. But I always believe that we can do much more. I don't think that we are doing enough to, stop this Galamsey menace. If government is so committed, government will be able to stop this in no time. So I think that government needs to be encouraged that, Ghanaians are in support of us fighting against this Galamsey, menace. And so it should go all out to ensure that it fights it. Unfortunately, it appears that the institutions that are mandated to, protect our water bodies, particularly the Water Resources Commission, has not been adequately resourced. And that is, a sad commentary because this is an institution that has capacity. If you go there and talk to the staff, you are in no doubt that they have the capacity. What they don't have is the resource, to complement the capacity. So I think that, it's good news that we are recording some successes, but I think that if you resource the Water Resources Commission and other agencies adequately, we should be able to do much better than we are even reporting. And so we have already called on government to adequately resource the Water Resources Commission because it's an institution that basically deals with only IGF. Without their IGF, they virtually don't get adequate support from government. But we believe that if they get, they will be able to do much better.
So when you say resources, exactly what do you mean? Is it about funding? Is it about
funding
equipment?
basically.
Because in 2022, we want to know what you think that the Water Resources Commission would need as per the budget.
Of course, I will not know how much they will need. I'm not privy to the draft that they presented or the budget they presented as what they will require to prosecute their agenda in 2022. But I can bet you they will not even get a tenth of it.
Why?
That has always been the narrative. You present what you need, you put in all the effort, but when it goes, it will be cut down. And sometimes it is cut down drastically, such that you need to now prioritize the basic things that you can do. I can share with you the budget of the ministry, the entire Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources from 2016 to now.
I would like to know if you have the figures.
And you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. I have the figure here, and I can share with you.
Of course.
If you are interested. So for 2016, the whole country, the entire Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, and here we are talking about the ministry, We are talking about the directorates, water directorate, environmental health and sanitation directorate. You are talking about community water and sanitation agency. We are talking about the Ghana Water Company Limited. Of course, that is a resource company, so maybe we can take them out. We are talking about Water Resources Commission and many of the other agencies that they have. In 2016, this entire ministry received 306 plus million Ghana cedis. 306 million plus Ghana cedis. And this will only be enough to cater for maybe compensation and adverse goods and services. So there will be virtually nothing left for capital expenditure. And that is where it's so important to invest in. Otherwise, you can't build the infrastructure. In 2017, from 306, we came down to 255 million. 255 million. In 2018, we came further down to 183 million Ghana cedis. And then in 2019, we went up to 246 million. And then in 2020, that is when we got our highest. We got 360. But interestingly, if you compare 2020, where we did our best, that was 360 million. If you compare that to 2016, for example, where we did 306, in terms of percentage allocation to GDP, so Ghana received this much, and this is how much the wash sector got. If you look in percentage terms, 2016 was 1.6%
of GDP.
Yes, 1.6% of GDP. 2017, 1.2%. 2019 was very low, 0.99%. 2019, 1.11%. And then 2020, 1.4%.
That is still even lower.
Very low. So even lower than the 2016, which was 306. So I think that somehow we have not been able to understand that investing in wash triggers, socioeconomic development. Because everywhere you go to, you take your cameras and go around. When people get access to water, it gives them the opportunity to engage in income generation activities. People congregate around water. Unfortunately, in many parts of this country, we don't have access to safe water. And it's a very big worry that for a country such as Ghana, which is grappling with poor sanitation, we can allocate, just a peanut for a whole ministry that has agencies under it. Yes, and when we go on, we'll discover some of the challenges, in many parts of this country, and why we think that government must invest more.
Now, you talk about the lack of potable water in communities, but if you look through the budget for 2022, government lists about 15 water projects that it intends to complete. You think that they can be completed and they will not solve the challenges about potable water you talk about?
I think they should be completed, and they should be able to complement, what we have now. Yeah. The challenge is that some of the names that are here, I've seen them before, and they are still on the list. But I think that when it comes to urban water supply, urban and maybe peri-urban, government is doing quite well.
It's
much better than
rural
in the rural and small towns. In the rural and small towns, it's basically donor driven. So if you don't have any donor funding, then it's very difficult for you because government's allocation cannot. And the district assemblies are not also committing resources to the delivery of sustainable wash services. So, for example, this year, if you look at the budget, you will discover that for water, it is basically the Gamma and the Gamma project and the Greater Kumasi Metropolitan Area project, GKMA and GAMA projects that have been mentioned. So, Greater Kumasi Metropolitan Area project, $51.5 million for water and sanitation in low-income communities. But this is confined to only Greater Accra and Ashanti.
And these areas, are they really low-income communities, especially when they are sort of cities?
Let's grant that they are low-income. Of course, in cities, they are very, very low-income communities. So I agree. And then it says GKMA project includes 74 million for 120 disability-friendly, fit-for-purpose, sensitive institutional facilities. And here we are basically talking about the same project. Then we have Garrett. Garrett is also doing engineered landfill sites and material recovery facilities in Gawes municipality. So basically, everything is about Gamma and GKMA. So government's allocation to the sector is quite very, very low. And sometimes when we expect so much from the ministry, sometimes I sit down and I laugh. And I pity them. Because you are giving so little, and yet Ghanaians have so high expectation of you that you can't deliver. In any case, for this year, come to think of it, I just went through the budget and discovered that GOG allocation to WASH, the entire WASH, the ministry and its agencies, is 172 from 360.
172 million.
172,871,000. So about half. It's even less than half of what we got in 2020.
It's less than half of what you got
in 2020. Of course, let me be quick to admit the government has also introduced the Sanitation and Pollution Levy. But that levy is going to give us annually something less than 500 million. It's in the region of 450 million a year.
But is the levy operational as now? And do we
know
not now.
How so much? When you add the 450 to even the 172, you still don't get to even 300. You don't get to 300. Yeah. So that is the challenge we are facing. You are expected to do so much, and yet, as for the levy, I endorse it. I mean, the Sanitation and Pollution Levy. People call it the Bola tax. But I say we shouldn't call it that, because when you do that, you are limiting it to solid waste. But this is for both solid waste and for liquid waste. Yes. But it is something that comes in handy, at least, to address some challenges. And basically, because of the infrastructure projects that government is engaging in, the treatment facilities, which are so fantastic. The treatment facilities, we have some in Accra, we have in Kumasi, we have wastewater treatment facilities. Government has cut the sword together with private sector, particularly Zoom Lion, to construct state-of-the-art treatment facilities across the country, in all the regions. And I think that is a beautiful move that government should sustain. So maybe the SPL, or Sanitation and Pollution Levy, has come to support this effort. But I say that something should also be dedicated to liquid waste management, ending open defecation, increasing access to improved toilet facilities in communities and in schools and healthcare facilities. But we are not clear what the modalities are.
But when you say increasing access to toilet facilities, that's where we have the Gamma project and then the GKMA project. Would that not be enough?
I agree with you, but you know that the Gamma project is in Greater Accra.
Yeah, anyway.
GKMA is Ashanti, but we have 16 regions. So what happens to the other regions who don't have the GKMA and the Gamma project? And they don't have any project. You see, at least Greater Accra has Gamma. It has Gaslip.
Yeah, Gaslip.
It has Garrett. It has projects. Ashanti has also received GKMA, I mean, thanks to the World Bank. But some of the other regions, even NGOs are not there. And that is the difficulty. So how are we able to ensure that we get equitable distribution of resources and development? It's not working. And I think that is where government should be paying a lot more attention. Look, I say that if we want to end open defecation, NGOs are supporting. I mean, everywhere you go, there are NGOs who are, I mean, making efforts at ending open defecation. But government needs to invest, put in resources, get the district assemblies to commit resources, charge them, give them key performance indicators that deliver this, or if you don't deliver, you are gone. But you see, we are not getting this kind of responsibility. That charge is not there. and that which you are not going to be assessed on, I mean, you tend to treat it anyhow. Imagine you are not going to be assessed for doing this program. I mean, how will you treat it? You feel that, oh, I mean, no matter what I do, it won't go against me.
Well, our listeners can join in on 055-744-6429. That's our WhatsApp line, 055-744-644. Now, Mr. Atahin, still on the budget. Now, we were talking about rural water. And if you look at point 843, it says the Rural Communities and Small Towns Water Supply Project covers 5 regions in Ashanti, lists the regions Greater Accra, Uti, and Volta. It says it involves the construction of 150 sources and 12 small town water systems to serve 588 communities at the cost of 300 million euros. It says a VFM analysis has been undertaken. What do you know about these projects? Are we aware of these projects?
This is the Rural Community and Small Town Water Project. I mean, I'm sure it is something under Community Water and Sanitation Agency. But let's do the analysis. I mean, they say that the devil is in the details. So you are talking about 150 point sources, 150 point sources, and 12 small town water systems to serve 588 communities at this cost. Now, 150 point sources. I mean, as a country, we should not be talking about 150 points. We should be talking in thousands. Because where I work with World Vision Ghana. Every year, we do more than 150 point sources, plus water systems. So, the government should be doing much more than that. And I think that, I mean, this issue about supporting urban water supply delivery and neglecting the rural areas, for me, doesn't add up. Because as for the urban area, I think the Ghana Water Company is so powerful, has the capacity to be able to raise even funding on their own, if they are allowed to be able to support this. But in the rural areas and small towns, I mean, if such interventions don't happen, it's difficult for them to get access to safe water.
On those interventions, it says that government is constructing 654 boreholes. It says out of that number, 622 will be fitted with hand pumps and 32 with limited mechanized systems in selected regions across. And it says that about 533 boreholes have been completed. That should be balancing the equation.
Yes, within which period? I mean, are we talking about? Even if we assume it's for 1 year. My point is that we should be doing much better than I'm seeing here. And look, when you see it like this, don't think that all of that is going to be done. Oh. Don't think so. And I have read this over and over in budget. Sometimes they will mention the 650. And eventually, maybe 200 and something will get done. So not everything here will get done. And in the budget, when you see the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources has been allocated 172 million Ghana cedis, don't think the entire 172 million is going to be released. Sometimes, at best, you get 70% of the budget released to you. And even the releases, the timely release is also a problem. The same way with the district assemblies. As I speak to you, I mean, first, second, and even third quarters have not been released. I understand that we are now getting releases for the district assemblies. So if this happens, how do you also expect the assemblies to commit some resources to the delivery of safe water and improved sanitation? So sometimes we blame the assemblies, but they also have challenges. But that is the entity responsible for the overall development of their jurisdiction, and that is why we will continue to call them out. And sometimes they don't have the money, but when you ask them, they won't talk. They won't talk. Because, I mean, there are consequences in talking also.
Because you're
so sometimes it's a system. I think we need to be able to get the system working and working well for all of us. We know government has a lot to do, and the resources are also not there.
But we have resources to be committed to other areas, so why not sanitation?
That is a very good point now. So the little we have, let's allocate them appropriately. And knowing that sanitation and water are so important. Why can't we allocate a lot more so that it serves as a preventive measure against diseases? So that very little diseases go to the hospitals for the doctors and the nurses to attend to. But we always want to emphasize the curative aspect, the medical aspect, where we apply drugs and surgeries and medicines and all that. Rather than, investing a lot more in water and sanitation and preventing the diseases in the first place. In Ghana today, about 3,600 children die every year. You are aware of that. Out through diarrhea. Diarrhea is so preventable. And yet, because they are not getting safe water and they are not living in improved sanitary conditions, children are dying needlessly when we can easily prevent. Yesterday, I attended a program which was organized by the ambassador of the Neglected Tropical Diseases Project. That is Mrs. Joyce Ayi. And dignitaries were there, ministers, directors, and chief executives, heads of institutions, national directors of NGOs and all that. And then everybody was talking about the fact that we are not getting access to safe water and sanitation, and that is why we are unable to address it. So I said, so what are we talking about? Every year, we allocate so much to the health sector. And most of it goes into the curative aspect that I talked about. Why can't we ensure that we allocate a lot more to water, sanitation, and hygiene, so that the preventive aspect will also be taken care of, and then you have very little to do?
So I hear Mr. Kafidanko is ready. Mr. Kafidanko, can you hear me? Mr. Jesse Danko, can you hear me? I think we do not have him yet. I cannot hear him. So maybe we'll continue with the discussion, and as and when he gets in, we'll just get to him. So let's talk about provision. And if you look at the budget, there's a talk about the fecal sludge, which is under construction. Any ideas as to what that is going to be like, and how much has been committed? How long have we been working on that?
Government is also investing in both solid and liquid waste management. And let me commend the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources on this. I think that the effort that she has put in terms of addressing the issues of solid waste management and liquid waste management is commendable. With a lot more resources, I believe that the ministry would have done much more. Because if you look at what is happening, the liquid waste treatment plant in Kumasi, then we have solid waste treatment plants that are ongoing. In fact, under Garrid, I don't know whether that's what you talked about, under Garrid, they are even constructing an engineered landfill site. I would have preferred that they had channeled that resource into the construction of maybe state-of-the-art treatment facilities, composting and recycling and all that. But we also need the engineered landfill sites, because you can't treat all the waste that you have. Definitely some will go to the landfill sites. But I'm praying that it is truly engineered. For the engineered landfill sites that we have currently in Kumasi, in Tamale, in Pung, and other places, are not engineered enough. So I think that, that effort is very, very commendable. And government should sustain that effort and invest a lot more, work with private sector to be able to get things done.
So you're talking about sustaining these efforts, but here is the case that funding is not enough.
That is what beats our imagination. That we are trying to do such a beautiful thing, and yet we are not allocating resources to it. I don't know, there is a certain mismatch. Because the ministry has started so well, government has started so well, building infrastructure. We need to sustain it. And then, whilst we are waiting for it to be sustained, the budget is cut. And there's very limited budget to do all this. Maybe we are hoping that maybe along the line we will do some borrowing and then maybe get some donor funding to be able to address or sustain the interventions, because we need to sustain them. Otherwise, a time will come where the waste management menace, I mean, will not be able to contain.
So I hear that Mr. Kofi Danku, Jesse Kofi Danku, who is the acting country director of Water Aid Ghana, Dr. Jesse Kofi Danku, has joined us. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Now, we've been discussing allocations for the wash sector in the 2022 budget. We've spoken about the Galam Stop operations and how it's improved, according to government, how it's improved the turbidity level on our water bodies, and also allocations for the provision of water in our rural communities. And what's your take? I'm sure you've gone through the budget, the portion of the budget that talks about sanitation. What's your take?
Thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers. First of all, let me correct, I'm not a doctor and I'm not the acting country rep. I was, but I'm no longer the acting country rep. Just to say that, I would say that there are two major components to sanitation delivery. And all I see in the budget is that government has emphasized and focused on one component, which is infrastructure development. We can't develop infrastructure, but if there is not a corresponding behavior change component, I believe we are not going to achieve much. For instance, if you take the disability-friendly, gender-sensitive toilets that they intend constructing in institutions, it takes behavior change for people to know how to use the facility well. For instance, management of menstrual pad is a challenge, and if care is not taken, those infrastructure will be there, but after some time, it will become unusable because people will not apply the right usage approaches to it. So I just want to say, I'm surprised to see that in all this, they are just focusing on the infrastructure component, but not actually attending to the software that will change people's behavior. I'll give another example. We are talking of engineering landfill sites and material holding bay and other things. I think if there is a behavior change component to know how even waste is handled at household level, how do people classify waste and other things, then we can even generate businesses along the line. These days, most donors are talking about circular economy. That waste is no longer waste, but waste can be managed. So it takes government to invest in the other components that to create awareness and to be able to come out with interventions that will facilitate adoption of positive hygiene behaviors so that these things can yield the full benefits. The other side I want to talk about is, I think Atta has already alluded to that. I've not also seen, probably in the budget, they might have included it in it, that the post-implementation, the post-installation maintenance component. I'm not seeing that strong. When you come to Ghana now, research has shown that 2 to 3 years down the line, most of the water system, especially point sources that are installed, becomes malfunctional or completely cease to function. So the issue now is no more about just running around with the infrastructure, but how do you strengthen the systems? How do we strengthen systems at the assembly level, even if it's the MP at national and sub-national level, to ensure that our systems are robust enough to ensure that the facilities we are installing now run the full time. We are talking of sustainability and they last for a very long time. So that is what I would say about sanitation. I'm looking more to see government investing in areas that can really be the two will get a better use and it will be more sustainable. I must also say that the Gamma and all those are targeted at urban areas. Amasiata has alluded to that. What are we doing to support rural communities also to build climate resilient toilets that we don't see each year? We don't see flooding and things that destroy the superstructure, destroy the toilet, which is a potential risk, because if care is not taken, this can even contaminate the groundwater. So we need to put in interventions that ensure that rural communities are even building climate resilient toilets that are robust, that can withstand the test of time, and that in the long run is protecting everybody. For all you know, that the aquifer far away from you might be taking its source from that community that is getting their toilet collapse and other things. So we need to do more, just more than the infrastructure that we have overemphasized over the years and focused on. And that is the main reason why you go around the country, you see a lot of white elephants. We build projects, we do things, 2-3 years down the line, people cannot use them. So I'm expecting government to invest equally in changing people's behavior and building resilient systems, building or strengthening systems that can really respond to the infrastructure they are doing. Talking about the water quality, I think this is an interesting area, and all Ghanaians are looking up to that to see the turbidity levels reducing. And it's not only the turbidity. Once people are working in the river body, the biological contaminants are also increasing. So we know Ghana Water Company, as they have lamented in the past, are spending more on chemical and treatment. So I think it's a plus for government, but we are expecting, and this again will go with the behavior change. People's livelihood, how are we going to influence them so that they will know that what I'm doing now, even though I may have the right to do some of the things I'm doing, it's affecting other people. And once your rights inflict on other people's rights, it is no longer a right. Invest in these areas that people really come to appreciate and comprehend the approaches that government is using to ensure that our water bodies are clean and clear. And for all you know, these water bodies also serve as recharge areas for groundwater. So if they are polluting them with mercury, if they are polluting them with arsenic, you may drill a borehole somewhere which is taking its source or its recharge area from the pra or the ankle bra, and you find high content of mercury, you find high content of other things that are not good for human consumption. So I'll say that yes, government is doing something, but we in the sector, we are expecting more from them. The budget, we think it is still low. As far as the challenges confronting the sector, the sanitation challenges, the water supply challenges confronting this country is concerned. You will recall how COVID has exposed us as a country that we do not have the systems to support hand washing when we're saying that people should wash their hands with soap and water and the running water. People will ask, where is the water? The communities don't have water. So it is time for us as a country to accelerate our intervention and actions to ensure that we have robust systems that can respond even to pandemics quickly, not waiting until pandemics happen. We start running around with poly tanks here and there, water tank services. It doesn't help anybody. Sometimes the harm will happen before we will try to address those issues. So this is what I want to say for the time being. I'm online and I'll contribute to.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Before I get to the studio to Mr. Ahin, I have a few WhatsApp messages here. I'll read them to our listeners. There's one that says, good evening. As much as I would applaud your guest, I'm furious how state agency workers use the lack of resource as an excuse for their non-performance only when the question of accountability comes to force, but they do not do same when they receive their salaries. I mean, you can't sit around on a job with clearly defined responsibilities and you still keep that job year to year and enjoying all the benefits that job provides, but won't take any action when the resources you need to perform fully have not been allocated by those whose responsibility it is to do so. That's Dakia Taki West. Now, I'm sure he's responding to Mr. Ahin's comment about lack of funds for the sector. Another one says, good program. Ask Mr. Ahin for me, where are we with the sanitation issues in Ghana? A listener or a viewer wants to know.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the first comment is a very valid one. That people who have been entrusted with the responsibility of providing sustainable wash services, when they don't have the resources, they don't also take any step. They don't make the effort to get the resources. And some of them, you go there and they will even tell you, oh, we have the resources. We have. Meanwhile, you don't have. I think that they should be bold enough to be able to demand what is rightfully theirs from government. Where we are on sanitation is poor. If you ask me, sanitation is the biggest weakness of this country. Let's take open defecation. 22% of Ghanaians are defecating in the open every day. And 22% of 30 million, even 20% of 30 million is about 6 million, right?
Yeah, around that area.
Now, they are defecating in the open. You are talking about access to improved toilet facilities. Only 21% of the population has access to improved toilet facilities. The rest depend on public toilets or defecate in the open. And I'm citing the multiple indicator cluster survey, which is conducted by Ghana Statistical Service, our own statistical agency. Apart from that, let's come to the schools. 30%, according to the Education Management Information System, 30% of basic schools don't have access to a toilet facility. And 49% of basic schools don't have access to water facilities. Now let's come to solid waste. Ghana generates in excess of 5 million tons of solid waste every year. Only about 70% of this solid waste is collected effectively. So the 30%, nobody knows where they find themselves. Ghana also generates, out of the 5 million tons of solid waste, 1 million tons of plastic waste every year. And only 2%, maximum 2%, is recycled. So that is the problem on our hands. Sanitation is so poor. And that is why we think it should become a special initiative of even the president. So that the president will take it upon himself and say, I am launching a special initiative on improved sanitation. Charge all your appointees, give them key performance indicators, resource them adequately, and see whether we will not achieve results. I always say that ending of open defecation should be one of the easiest tasks. Just tell your appointees, end open defecation in your district in 3 years. Give them resources. They will do it. They will do it.
Now, point made. The issue has always been the lack of resources. I'll go to Mr. Jesse Danko. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So we obviously been talking about lack of resources. Now we have a number of initiatives by government. You have Operation Clean Your Frontage, government's agenda to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. We are still talking about lack of resources. Are we going to be able to achieve or make progress with these initiatives, considering the lack of resources we keep talking about?
Well, without the resources, it's going to be difficult to achieve the targets in the first place. But I have a quick advice for officers who work in these areas. It might not be popular, but I think even if the resources are not there, and I'm on an environment, in my immediate neighborhood, if I'm really concerned about the safety of Ghanaians, and I really cherish the work I do, I believe even in my own neighborhood, initiate something that may not require logistics or funding to achieve that. I have an example from AEA where the guy's performance was so high that the district assembly started supporting him to undertake other activities. So demonstrate to your boss or the leader of the organization that you have the capacity, you have the commitment, you have the innovative idea to do some little things, then you can showcase that. But I must say that what government can also do is we know government is the main duty bearer. He has to provide, he has to lead the way. but they should also be thinking of strategic partnerships, and they shouldn't go solo. Even the little funds that they have, there are some CSOs that with that fund, they can turn it around and achieve a lot. Sometimes we also find the work being done by people who don't really have the expertise for it and do not understand it. So I must say that, yes, the funding is not there, but if government can establish those partnerships and approach maybe the civil society organization, there could be a way out that we can achieve a lot out of the little or the limited funding that is available. But the bottom line is that it requires funding to achieve the targets. That is what I can say.
Well, thank you very much. Viewers can call into the program on 0260969160, 0260969160. I'm saying I'll come to you with the same question. With the lack of funding, all these projects, are we going to achieve them? Are we going to make any progress?
I have already commended the Greater Accra Regional Minister for this bold initiative, even though I think that we should take steps to make it sustainable and even replicate same in other regions and resource them. Because without the resources, initiatives will remain only but plans. They will not see the light of day. And so I think that government should be encouraged, that we are commending it for the bold initiatives that it has introduced. But we are saying that let's complement it with resources. Otherwise, we will not be able to achieve results. I like the point that my boss raised. You know, he's my boss, my former boss from WaterAid. I mean, his point is that NGOs, civil society organizations have adequate capacity. And if you support them, they will be able to turn around the little resources that you provide and make it meaningful and impactful on communities and citizens.
How is it possible that
yes,
CSOs and NGOs are able to turn around the little resources, but the government can't do that?
Because, you know, per our training, CSOs and NGOs are trained to be very conservative. We are trained to be very effective and efficient. With little resources, you want to reach as many poor people as possible. And therefore, there is very little chance for waste. But when you come to the government sector, unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of waste that I think we can talk about another time. I think that if government has resources, it will not be out of place for government to even go for resources to equip NGOs and civil society organizations and give them zones and say, this NGO handle this NGO handle this area. I believe that if we are able to do that, we will achieve a lot of results. Now, this is where the trick is. If you look at paragraph 851 of the budget, 851, government says, with respect to sanitation sector management, government will continue to execute the following projects to improve on the sanitation conditions in the country. And look at what is stated there. Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Sanitation and Water Project. Greater Accra Sustainable Sanitation and Livelihood Improvement Project. Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project. I mean, how are you going to improve sanitation in the country with projects that are only located in one region? It doesn't work that way. And I was expecting to see here all other projects for the other regions also listed. That government will also do this project in my region, Bono region, Bono East region, Ahafo region, and all the other regions. But it didn't happen. So what we are saying is that government, yes, you are making a lot of effort, but make it so comprehensive that all other regions will also benefit. That is what we are looking at. And my boss mentioned the emergency response aspect. You see, COVID has taught us that we need to be resilient. We need to put in place the necessary measures to avert another calamity. What are we doing as a country to ensure that WASH is positioned so well that with another calamity or another pandemic, we'll be able to brace the storm?
Well, we'll take a quick break and then take our sanitation tip for the day. We'll be back shortly.
Cleanliness is next to God.
Back from taking our sanitation tip for the day, we'll be rounding up. Mr. Ahin, your final words on the budget and the allocations for the water sector.
Yes, we thank government for at least on paper prioritizing the water, sanitation and hygiene sector. We know the Minister for Finance is a friend of water, sanitation and hygiene because he knows that it's a catalyst for growth and socio-economic development. And so we know that he has made the effort, but we think it is not enough. We want to seek to engage him on ways to, generate some innovative financing models to finance water, sanitation and hygiene. So we'll be engaging him on that. But I want to end by saying that there is a quotation by Deepak Chopra, an American philosopher, which says that even though we take it for granted, sanitation is a physical measure which has probably done more to increase human lifespan than any kind of drug or surgery. But we treat it anyhow. I think that the time has come for us to prioritize sanitation, allocate a lot more resources to it, ensure law enforcement. The building code should be enforced, build infrastructure, ensure that we do behavior change communication properly. When we do all this, I tell you, Ghana will begin to see an improvement in its sanitation situation. Where we are now, we don't deserve to be there. Other countries which are not even up to our standard are doing much better. And the time has come for us to sit up and begin to take action towards addressing our precarious sanitation situation in the country.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Dr. Jesse Danku for his final words.
Yeah, thank you, Doreen. I think the government needs to resource the environmental health units or department. I'm looking up to a transformative change where they are not only doing the enforcement, but they have capacity. They have capacity to deliver behavior change components so that in the communities, each intervention will carry along the community members that as a country, we need to be clean and we need to attain this cleanliness in every aspect of our life. So if government resource the environmental health unit that cuts across the whole country, and they are retrained and there is a transformative change happening, then I believe all the things that all government initiatives as well will be thinking about sustainability, we'll be thinking about improving lives in rural communities and not only in the cities, as we are seeing with Greater Accra, Gamma, and other things. But we are also thinking of the whole country and knowing that in cholera to Accra, you can improve sanitation in Accra and leave the rural communities unattended to, but you can still suffer from cholera outbreaks. So it is time that we adopt a holistic approach country with all the interventions that we are doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Doc. That's Head of Programs, Water Aid Ghana, Dr. Jesse Kofi Danku. That is one of my guests in this in the program. I also had Chairperson of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, CONUAS, Atahin. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time on Washa. Now, to our viewers, it's been a time well spent and time to part companies with you. make time again with us on same time next week on the same channel. The program is Wash. My name is Doreen Nampafo. Enjoy your day and stay clean.